Firstly, HR has transformed. So for me, the term HR itself is not something that is going to be synonymous in the future. So you should actually view it as people management instead of HR, because HR is human resources, and a resource is something that once you use, you dispose of. So basically what this person, the advice that I would give to this person is firstly, and I always say this, is what are the tools internally that you have in your company that you can use in order to guide you. So I think always you have to begin with, and this is where people miss the point with salaries, is that you have to look at the market positioning that your particular company has taken.
Hello, my fellow viewers, my fellow internal auditors or assurance providers in different industries. Welcome to another episode of INbrief. I am Masego Malapile and I'll be your host for this episode. So we've been having multiple episodes speaking to our internal audit professionals, speaking to Menko, and today I have yet another Menko, and his name is Amir. Amir is the HR manager for IIASA. And I'm really excited to have a chat with him because there are a few things that I'd like to pick his brain on, and things that are quite critical in our profession as internal auditors rather. And I'd like him to actually give us some insights and highlights on things from an HR perspective that you yourself wouldn't understand. Because remember, internal audit is an independent function, and sometimes we're not comfortable speaking to our in-house HRs about things that probably we cannot deal with. But Amir is here to actually bring light on those challenges and things that you actually do not, you cannot handle yourself. So let me start by introducing him. And I want him to tell us who he is, where he's from, personally, Amir, not career, personally. Who are you? What do you do? Where have you been? Don't tell us where you've been working. What's your favorite song? Do you have a pet? Are you married? Do you have kids? All the things that we would like to know.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. So I'm Amir, as you rightfully said, from Limpopo. And I enjoy watching Formula One.
Okay.
Because it's a very, very interesting sport in terms of the strategy that just goes from the wheel alignment of the car to the person that's driving the car to the fuel consumption of the car. So it's something that catches my attention. I also enjoy golf, and it's got to do with the same thing. I mean, it's looking at wind speeds, it's looking at how far you're going to hit over a slope, it's looking at the different clubs and how much distance those clubs can carry. So that is something that I enjoy doing and watching as a hobby. Apart from that, in terms of music that I enjoy, I think my favorite one is from DJ Spoo. Everything Happens for a Reason. I think I love that song. And in terms of gymming, I think that's my favorite activity to do. I think that's where you
like to gym?
Yes, I think I love gymming, and that's where I get a lot of exercise in. And I think at that particular moment, I think that's when you get to switch off and you do something that you actually enjoy. So I think that's me in a nutshell.
Wait, you like rich people's stuff? Formula One, rich people's sports. Golf, rich people's sports. Okay, music, I get it. But Formula One, golf, gym, these are the things that requires money on a monthly basis. I mean, you have an expensive people's hobby.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. You are what you manifest.
Yes. I like that.
Yes.
So, but then tell us, where in Limpopo are you from?
So in Limpopo, it's from a little town called Louis Trichardt or Makado.
You're from Makado?
Yes, absolutely.
Interesting. Oh, that's far.
Yeah, it is quite far, yes.
When
absolutely.
you go home, please bring me mangoes.
No, absolutely. We've got all divine fruits there. So if you want avocados, apart from that, I'll bring you everything that you require.
Okay, so it's actually a stereotype. Everyone that comes from Limpopo would like to say, when you go see Bomma, bring back some mango.
Okay, absolutely.
But to be fair, they grow on the streets.
Yes.
They do. They actually grow on the streets. I love Venda.
Yes.
Venda is one of the nicest green places I've ever visited in South Africa. For a place that's hot, it's very green.
No, absolutely. And I think also it's got beautiful people, very kind people, and it's got a mixed breed of people. So you've got the Zimbabwean border that just borders it. So you've got people from all over the region that comes through to Venda. So, I mean, it's also multicultural, which is another good thing about it.
How do you pronounce your surname?
Mtupanyama.
Okay, I'm going to try. Don't come for me. Let's try.
Mtupanyama.
Nyama.
Yes.
Nyama. It's a good thing I won't be saying it throughout this interview. Otherwise, I'm in trouble.
Absolutely.
It's like Mtupanyama. No. So now, give us a career journey. Where did you start?
Okay.
And we forgot to tell us. Do you have kids? Are you married?
No kids and not married.
Okay, no follow-up question. Don't worry. No follow-up question. So now, just tell us about your career journey. What drove you to be in the HR space?
So I think that's a very interesting question. So initially, I was not actually keen on being in the HR field. My first preference was to go into the legal field.
Okay.
However, when I went to register, I remember when I passed my matric and I went to UJ to register for the legal course, I found that there was no space in the legal course itself. And the only thing that was available in front of me was HR. So I kind of stumbled on it and I said, okay, let me just take it and then I'll do it for a year and then over time I'll probably change it. And behold, I did it for a year and I fell in love with it. I mean, the thought of just, it's not only about helping people, but it's also about tying in development and tying in how you're going to upskill people in a broader sense of view. So that's how I got into HR. In terms of my career in brief, I think I started off in Edcon, which is a big retail giant in SA. And I started off as an intern in 2016. And I was there for 11 months.
So you're very young.
Absolutely.
You just gave away your age.
Absolutely.
You can do the calculation.
Nicely spotted, nicely spotted.
Okay.
Yes, so I did that 2016 for about 11 months. And I worked across different stores, whether it was Edgar's, whether it was CNA. So I've got to get an understanding of how the retail sector works. So that was a good experience that I harnessed in Edcon. And then I moved over to an international carrier, Asian carrier. So it's based out of Hong Kong, Cathay Pacific Airways. They have daily flights out of Johannesburg, long haul flights.
Wow.
So they fly from Joburg into Hong Kong and then from Hong Kong into the broader region. So it's about a 9 to 10 hour flight.
No, that's not bad.
Okay.
No, it's not bad compared to flying to the US.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's not bad.
Yes, so then I got introduced to that and I've been there for the past 6-7 years and I was taking care of the HR operations for South Africa and Indian Ocean.
So, quick question. Do you have discounts on flights to Hong Kong?
Yes.
Okay, so when I fly to Hong Kong next.
Absolutely. Get in touch with me.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is how you network. All right, so you have given us your career path in HR. There's something that most people undermine in organizations, and I'm pretty sure you're aware of that. HR is one of the functions that's undermined. It's either it's loved or it's hated in extreme ways. If you were to tell someone what HR actually is, right, what would you say to them? Because sometimes I always say this. We don't hate or like something or judge it because of full knowledge.
Correct.
Because full knowledge will make you empathetic to some degree, right? But you make certain judgments, especially if they are harsh, because the knowledge is not there. So we think we understand what HR is, but we actually don't. So what is HR?
I think that's a very good question. So I think, firstly, HR has transformed. So for me, the term HR itself is not something that is going to be synonymous in the future. So you should actually view it as people management instead of HR, because HR is human resources, and a resource is something that once you use, you dispose of.
Ooh, hectic.
So I think the term itself also needs to change to people management. I think that's where it starts. And then secondly, I think the role of HR has always been defined as one which deals with issues that are difficult in the workplace, and henceforth people have a perception that HR are sort of polices in that environment. how you need to look at HR is from a business partnering point of view. So that's why it's called now HR Business Partners, because you partner with the different businesses to understand the different elements across the different functions, and then you add value by giving advice and steering the business to getting its strategic director. So that's how I would explain what HR should be in a simple term.
The company that I worked for, they don't call HR HR. They call it human capital. Because capital, in its essence, generates revenue.
Absolutely.
So, unlike a resource, capital is maintained and it increases the value of the company.
Absolutely.
I didn't understand. When I was working for that company, I didn't understand. But it showed me how this company actually perceives the people that work for it.
Absolutely.
So, there's something that you said, which is an irony. You said people think that HR is the police. Yeah, so do internal auditors. So do internal auditors. So welcome. So now you're getting hit twice.
Yes.
You're a police of a police.
Absolutely.
That's the crazy part.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so how has your journey in IIA been? When did you start? Are you enjoying it?
So I started my journey in IIA on the 1st of March 2024. So I'm under 3 months currently. So initially when I joined and I shared the company profile and what's it about, I think firstly maybe what attracted me to join this company is the fact that it looks at training.
Yes.
And it looks at upskilling and holding governance in the internal audit spectrum. So I think that was the one thing. And when I joined, I think my journey here has so far been one that is fruitful. I think the people make this place. You've got beautiful people in this place. And for a company to succeed, you have to, going back to your point, it's the human capital of that particular organization. So IIA has got fantastic people across board, across different departments, and the culture is also unique and the values that they live upon. So each and every one in IIA lives upon these core values, these 5 core values that are here. And I think that has also made my journey very easy, because when I see people living to the core values, then I myself also am able to act on those particular core values. So far it has been one that has been very, very insightful, one that I've learned a lot, and it's a good experience, and I'm looking forward to the future with IIA.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I have difficult questions for him, but before that, we need to actually play a nice game.
Okay.
So here's the rule. Say what's on your mind.
Okay.
Right? The first thing that comes on your mind, say it.
Okay.
Preferably filter first.
Okay. Okay.
Preferably. Because so say what's on your mind. Every time I look to the sky, I always think
Of God.
Okay. I can't believe I actually, when I was younger.
Stole.
Yo. I'm always chosen first when it comes to
Food.
Okay. I'm a little embarrassed by the fact that I know so little about
Myself.
Fair. No one does. No one does. Today looks like a good day to
Swim.
Okay. Funny enough, that's the first thing that came in my mind. And I don't know how to swim. The English is not Englishing. I know this is weird, but I really like to.
You said filter, so I don't know if I should answer that.
Nah. Let's leave it. Okay. I would die without.
My hair cutter.
Yeah? Your what?
Hair clipper.
Okay.
First thing that came to my mind.
Okay, that's fair.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm quite
Strange.
Okay. Last one. Sometimes I look back at my life and
I'm in awe.
okay. Good answers. Hey, you filter. hey, the filter was real, but it's a good thing.
Yes.
I am a very interesting person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think inside a box, right? I always look at things that are outside, like possibilities, other than the current situation that I'm in.
Correct.
That keeps my mind active all the time. I enjoy space stuff. I enjoy reading. There's an I think it's a website called metro.co.za. I think something like that. No, it's not even the .co.za. I think it's metro.com or .net. They speak about space station issues and stuff like that. With that context, if there was an alternate universe, which is a universe that symbolizes Earth with the same people, and you happen to be in that alternate universe, who do you think you would be, and what career do you think you would follow?
That's a very, very good question. I think for me, I would want to help people. So if I have to choose a career, I would say I'd want to become a volunteer of some sort.
Oh, Amir, you're already HR, you're helping people. In the alternate universe, you'll still be helping people.
Yes, absolutely. Because I think in HR, there's a specific focus with which I'm helping people.
Okay.
But in an alternate universe, then I'll be able to help them on from a multiple point of view. So I'll be able to solve different issues. So whether it's poverty, whether it's famine, whether it's diseases, whether it's helping people with housing, whether it's up. So these are all real issues that confront us on a daily basis. So if I had to choose something that I would do in an alternate universe, it would be to have the capability to help people across those different spectrums.
That's interesting. Funny enough, your personality trait is that of a person that actually likes to help. Even when you were choosing to be in the legal space, you're a lawyer because you want to help someone.
Correct.
So in HR because you want to help someone.
Absolutely.
So basically, Amir likes to help people.
Absolutely.
Bottom line.
Spot on.
Bottom line. Okay. I would commercialize traveling to the moon.
Ah, okay. Interesting.
Word
Very
commercialize.
Nice. Okay. Commercialize traveling to the moon.
Yes. I would commercialize traveling to the moon. I want people to have an literally out of the world experience. Literally.
Okay. And have you thought about how you're going to do that on a large scale?
No, Masego in the alternate universe will think about it.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay. Masego in the alternate universe will definitely think about it.
For sure.
So how is it so far? Do you enjoy? Are you enjoying your work in IIA?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, to think about it, you're not just an HR manager for IIA, the organization, but it's for IIA and its members.
Correct.
Okay. So how do you resolve conflict? Two-part question.
Okay.
Conflict between you and somebody else, and conflict between two people.
Okay. I think conflict between me and somebody else, I think the most important thing in conflict is self-awareness. You first have to be aware of yourself in that particular situation, and what are you saying and what are the biases that you have for that opposite person in that point in time. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you need to always step back from conflict. So once it happens, you need to take a step back and do some reflection. And then finally, you need to have an honest conversation with that individual after it has transpired so that you resolve any other aspects of that conflict that are remaining and that you are able to carve a way forward that is meaningful to the both of you all. So that's how I would resolve conflict on a personal level. Now, if I'm solving conflict between two people, again, the same thing applies because the principle is the same. It's always to understand what is the root cause of that particular conflict for those two individuals, and to never equate the blame to any one of them at that particular point in time. Is to establish what was the root cause and what caused the particular conflict, and to find a way to then get them to understand each other. And how do you do that is by making them both acknowledge that at that particular point in time, they might have all erred on the wrong side. However, in future, this would be the way to address it, and you would use your policies and etc. as a guideline.
Okay.
Yep.
So follow-up question. So obviously, when there's conflict, we have in most cases, two different types of personalities that probably don't agree with each other, or perceptions of views that don't agree with each other. So now how would you deal with different types of personalities? There are people that believe that personalities are represented by color. There's one who's yellow, one red, one green, one this. I don't know what my color is. I'll find out. But so how would you deal with those different types of personalities? Because they want different, same thing in different ways because of that different. So how would you deal with that?
So I think personality clashes are inevitable. So it's something that first we have to agree that it's something that is going to happen. And back to your question is, how do you deal with that? Is that you create an enabling environment from a cultural point of view. So I'll take it back to IIA. So you would instill your values to those individuals. So everybody needs to live up to values. One of the values that I like that we have is humanity at the core. So irregardless of what your personality trait is, if you understand the value humanity at the core, that in dealing with somebody, you have to display those humane skills, I think you can overcome any personality clash that you have.
It's a good thing you mentioned the values of IIA. I think there are a lot of people that don't know them. And I like to believe you know them by heart. You sing them every morning in the bathroom, like integrity, respect.
Yes.
So give us those values. What are they?
Yes, so you've got your humanity at the core. That's your number one value. Then you've got your collaboration and ownership, which is another value, and the integrity, which you rightfully spoke about. And then you've got insightfulness and future thoughtfulness leadership. So that's another value that you have.
Just to give advice to people that are leading teams, regardless of the industry that they're in, that have these values, right? The values that we just spoke about are new. How do you then get staff members to understand them and live by them? How does HR play a role in ensuring that everyone in the company understands and lives by the very same values?
Absolutely. That's a great question, actually. So I think what we would do is that your values need to be instilled from the moment that you walk into the door. So it looks like it's not something big, but when you display your values, whatever, it's human psychology, whatever people see at any given time, at every point in time, it's something that is cemented in their mind. So they'll think about it all the time. So it's displaying your values visually so that they are able to see them. And in every interaction that you have, whether it's a staff meeting, whether it's a staff recognition program, whether it's you building your value proposition for your company, you have to ensure that at all those touch points, you are speaking about your values. So whether it's in your meetings, you are addressing the team, telling them to act as a cohesive unit, which speaks to that collaboration value. You're telling them that to treat each other and members with respect, which speaks to that humanity at the core. So it's just instilling it at each touch point in that employee life cycle.
So do you instill it by training, workshops, practice, and if practice, which one? I'm asking this because not everybody knows. Like it's easy as a CAE to come up with the values for we know we have code of ethics, right? We know our standards. We know what we need to do as internal auditors, but for a team, it's a different thing, right? This is how we engage as people, not just as professionals. So how would you then go about actually implementing it, like in a practical way? Not like a step-by-step guide, or let's just say give our CAEs life hack on how to instill values.
Yes.
Because I'm really busy going around the tree here. How do you tell, let's just tell CAEs that this is how you instill values?
Yes, so I think what you would do, how do you instill the values is you have to start with focus groups.
Okay.
So it's encourageable that companies across different departments hold focus groups. So you can have a focus group once a month where you bring people together and you put these values up, and you can bring a random topic up and you'll discuss that topic around those particular values. So whatever issues you all are facing in the organization, you bring that value up and you say, how does this value correspond to that particular thing? So your focus groups are one. The second thing is that you can even do classroom training if you're willing, and that will instill it from a classroom point of view, where you sit down and you take everybody in the company through those particular values because they affect the overall functioning of the entire company. If people are not living your value, that means they're not adhering to your strategy as an organization. So you can do it through also classroom training. That's another way of doing it.
Okay.
Yep.
There are a couple of scenarios that I have for you.
Okay.
Right? These scenarios speak to, I'd like to believe there's more to these scenarios.
Yes.
But this is as far as we can think of in terms of challenging you and seeing how you think. Here's my reason. We want to be in a position where all the resources that are utilized or all the resources that are in IIA are accessible to members for advice, right? If you have a problem with something, a tricky situation that you cannot understand from a technical perspective, they need to be able to email Dirk. If you have a question about something related to your career journey, aspirations, and you feel like Arlene is the only person that can help you with it, you might be able to access it. If we have HR issues, which especially you are on your in-house internal auditor, and you don't even trust the HR that works within your own organization, they must be able to come to you, right? So now, there are a couple of scenarios that I think members would appreciate to know how you would handle any of these situations. There probably could be more. And say, for example, so basically, here's the rule, right? The rule is for each and every scenario that has been given to you, you need to advise the member or the person on what is it that they need to do.
Okay.
Right? So here's the first one. I've been practicing internal audit for a long time, and I'm not fulfilled in this career. I'm afraid to resign as this takes food out of my children's mouth and my mouth. So I chose this career because my parents, who are now gone or have passed on, chose it for me. I'm miserable. I don't like this. What must I do?
That's a very interesting situation. So basically what this person, the advice that I would give to this person is firstly, and I always say this, is what are the tools internally that you have in your company that you can use in order to guide you? So is there an employee and assistant program in that particular company? That should be his first point of contact because that's going to help him from a mental point of view. Secondly, he did this career out of passion for what his parents wanted to do. It was not something that he wanted to do. And he understands that if he does resign, it means taking food out of his children's mouths. So what he needs to do is then use the same company in terms of cross-training within and see if there's something in there that will interest him, and he can have conversations with his manager from a development point of view, and that can be inserted, and hopefully he finds a passion in a different department rather than altogether resigning and going to look for something. So use his time in crafting a development plan and doing maybe cross-training and putting his hand up to say if he can go into a different department, and probably if that is something that he likes, then he can implant himself in those departments.
So what if this person works for IIA and they are coming directly to you? This is where now you, in a way, have the control to implement some of these things. What would you do with that person?
So I think exactly that the point that the thing that I alluded to earlier is what exactly I would do. So I would first want to understand his passion. So his passion is not in that particular field. And we then have to understand what are his skills apart from that? What does he do? And for us to understand that, we need to do a skills analysis on that particular individual to see what are the extra skills that he has and where can we use them in the organization. And that's where we will then do the telecommuting, or we'll do the cross-training with him and see if he has a passion based on that skills analysis that we've did, and if it's something that he enjoys, and then that's where we will plug him.
I like your answer.
Yep.
You know why? To every problem, there's a root cause.
Absolutely.
Right? So understanding the passion is trying to discover if at all this person is genuinely not passionate about internal audit. Sometimes they're not passionate about internal audit because of the long hours that they work in order for them to get the deadline. So it's not that they're not passionate about the career, just that situations make them think that they're not passionate about the career.
Absolutely.
And also, what you've just given us now, it helps us to change the mindset of that particular individual. Because when you told yourself that you don't like something. You don't like something.
Correct.
Okay. Hey, cheers, Mr. HR. I saw Mr. HC. Okay. Here's the second one.
Yes.
I feel like my manager treats me differently from other people. I wish this was written in Gen Z language.
Okay.
Do I even know Gen Z language? I feel like my manager treats me differently from other people. I think this is personal. I try speaking to them, but they dismissed me a few times saying, I'm the manager, do what I tell you to do. I tried lodging a grievance, but somehow it disappears into thin air. Now the environment is toxic, I'm unhappy, I'm always sad, I'm always sick actually, and I'm not looking forward to coming to work every day. What must I do?
I think those are situations that we experience all the time. So I think the best approach to that, and just looking at that particular case, there's a bit of intimidation that is coming through there also from the manager's side. So what this particular individual needs to do, and I always emphasize this, is that you need to follow process. Regardless of how frustrating it is, that particular person needs to look at the policy. What did the policy say, and what are the recourse actions that they can take guided by that particular policy? And documenting everything that they do is very, very important. So even though they're not being heard, provided they have followed the process and they've documented every single step in that particular process, if worse comes to worse and this person decides to resign, this has some elements of constructive dismissal.
Yes.
So in this country, you've got the CCMA, which is a tribunal which offers free litigation advice for employees in this country. They can refer a dispute to the CCMA, and the CCMA is an independent body that can adjudicate on that matter, and that particular manager can be dealt with and they can be reinstated at the end, provided they have followed the process and they've documented all the evidence and they can show beyond reasonable doubt that they have did everything in their power to highlight this, and nobody has heard their cry. So that's what I would advise this particular individual do.
You know, I'm actually hearing this version for the first time because, okay, before I even ask the question, are we going to call this human capital or people management?
I think both are good in a way. Both are good.
So HC and PM.
Yeah.
Okay. Not past midday, PM. So in the human capital space, it's very rare that we get this type of information. In fact, even during induction, when a new staff member joins the company, you're not told that you need to document stuff. But in fact, when we go and we complain to human capital, we expect a certain outcome. And that outcome doesn't work in our favor because we didn't document our evidence. Yeah. We didn't have the proof. We didn't show that we followed due process. But we don't know. It's like we expect human capital to do it on our behalf.
Absolutely.
But we don't know this. And I think it's a good thing that we're having this conversation. Now people need to know that you need to document and follow due process.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the policy. Every company has its own HR policy. How often should the company remind the people of its HR policies?
Very good question. So I think I'll answer that in twofold. So number one, they need to remind people of policies as they get refreshed. So because we operate in an environment where things are being reviewed at all times. So that human capital need to keep their pulse on what is happening outside of the organization, and any changes in legislation needs to be communicated as soon as possible. So it's one, your human capital need to have its pulse on what's happening outside and update as those things are coming up. The second thing is that every quarter, it's always good where the human capital will gather the staff, and they will then also update them in terms of any changes or any foreseen subtle changes that are going to be made in the policy, and also remind them as a refresher that these are the policies and these are the things that you can do should you require to take certain recourse on a certain incident or a certain situation.
Okay.
Yep.
So before we can get into the last part of the scenarios that we have, let's talk about induction.
Okay.
How do you feel about it?
Yes, that's a good one. Yes. Induction, yes.
So how do you feel about it? Like, is it a good thing? How should it be done? Is it done the right way? Is it overdone?
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of companies don't know what the purpose of induction is.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's true. I think induction is a necessary thing that needs to be done because you hiring somebody, and maybe let me go back. As part of your employee value proposition, you look at it from when the talent is joining. So from when recruitment, you have to look at induction from a recruitment point of view before the resource has joined you, all the way till the resource exits your organization. So what you need to do is that particular department where the individual is going to join, there has to be certain procedures that are documented. There has to be certain policies in the way that they work. There has to be objectives and KPIs that they measure with regards to that particular job. And all this needs to be packaged. So when that particular resource joins your organization, then you are able to give this person this kit, and it's an information kit that they can use to refer to from time to time should they need any assistance. However, that doesn't mean that you are not able to provide them with advice. You still have to provide them with advice. So that's just one element of induction. So you've got IT that needs to be set up for the particular individual. You've got the CEO that needs to come in and give that person brief in terms of the company and the values and the vision and the mission of that particular company. And also you need to involve the different heads of departments to come and share what it is they do, so that that particular individual is also aware of what is happening around them and is not only focused on their particular department.
Funny you mentioned it. So I used to work for an organization that did that.
Okay.
And to a point where they took it as far as to get the HR, the internal audit manager to come and present. And I was, the manager then, presenting at the induction.
Okay.
At first, I didn't understand why.
Yes.
Right? And then as time went on, I understood that we are working with people that need to know what could potentially affect them in their work. So it's always good to employ people that understand exactly how your organization functions.
Absolutely.
And I like the fact that the CEO of that company took his time. In fact, induction won't carry on if it's not available.
Absolutely.
So that he can address his own people.
Absolutely.
Especially when you have an open door policy. And that organization was not big, but it was big. Wow. Not big in South Africa, but big in general. Okay. Right? So, can we get back to our game?
Yeah.
Do you have your filter mode on? Okay. Yeah, let's. We need filter here. Okay. From time to time, it's good to
sleep.
Time to time. The world would be a better place if
we all treated each other good.
Okay, I almost thought you were going to say ANC was not the leading part. Okay, now this one.
Yes.
Say what's on your mind, right?
Okay.
But please filter.
Okay.
Don't trust because of
No, I think let's move on to another one.
Okay, so when I look, let's try this one. When I look into eyes, I knew.
No, let's move on to something else.
Ooh, here's a nice one. I wonder when politicians.
I wonder
when politicians
speak.
But they do. Well, they talk.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. If I could teleport people, I would teleport.
If I could teleport people, I would teleport. I must teleport them to a destination or?
Either to you or to a destination.
I would teleport them to Mars.
So basically you ship every human to Mars.
Absolutely.
Hey, like I said, out of space experience.
Exactly.
I support it.
Yes.
I support it. Okay, let's go back to the scenarios because they get interesting by the time. Okay. This is a quite long one. I feel like as managers, we are oppressed. I'm an auditor, right? And my team, I have an auditor rather in my team who's a great speaker, great presenter. They can build rapport with manager and employees and have a good relationship with everyone, including the CEO. I've been asking him for the past 3 weeks to send me his work paper for review. But he keeps saying, I will send it. Or the internet is down, or I still haven't received documents to perform my work. We are running behind schedule, and he's not even bothered. If I speak to him, he says I oppress him, or I'm discriminating him because of either his gender, his race, or his age. What must I do?
Yeah, so I think that goes back to exactly what we spoken about earlier. It's about, and I know this point, people don't like hearing this all the time, but it's following processes, following procedures, following what are your policies, etc. Now, if you look at that, there's an element of capacity. So that becomes a capacity issue. So this particular individual needs to call a capacity hearing with this particular person, and in the hearing, they need to address the poor work performance, because that's what it's leading to. This particular individual is not actually contributing according to as they contracted to. So this becomes a capacity issue, and he needs to formalize this. So when he formalizes it, again, he's creating paper trail. He's got something in place to say, I did do a hearing, and this is the outcome of the hearing, and therefore he can take recourse action, even though there's close proximity to the CEO, you have followed your process. So should dismissal be inevitable for you for following process, again, you take recourse action with the CCMA, provide that this is what I've done, and this is what has led to my dismissal, because I have followed the process in conducting disciplinary for somebody who was not living up to their expectations as per their contract.
It's a good thing you said that, especially speaking about disciplinary proceedings. What type of disciplinary proceedings do we have, and how best can we practice them from a generic point of view? Because I like to believe, chances are, I'm not sure though, but chances are most companies have their own disciplinary proceedings. But generally, what are the types of disciplinary proceedings do we have, and how do we enforce them, rather?
Yeah. So there's, I think, good question. There's, in terms of disciplinary, you've got the conduct aspect. So misconduct would range from everything to late coming, to insubordination. So that would be misconduct, and you would have a disciplinary inquiry for that. And that disciplinary inquiry will be based on conduct. Then you've got a disciplinary inquiry for capacity that we're speaking about right now. So capacity is broken down into two legs. So you've got poor work performance on one side, where you address issues that are pertaining to an individual's deliverables, and the other leg of it is ill health. So the ill health is further broken down into two, where it's temporary or permanent incapacitation. And those also will have their own inquiries, where you will address if somebody is ill health, are they temporarily incapacitated or are they permanently incapacitated, and you will follow that procedure as such.
Assuming that the person is permanently incapacitated as a result of their work, right? Internal auditors travel a lot. And God forbid one of the auditors traveled to a different destination, and God forbid they got into an accident, God forbid they can't walk anymore, or they can't function anymore mentally. So what does the company do in such a situation?
Yeah, so that's a very tricky situation, because normally if you are, and you phrase it correctly by saying they are traveling for work. So if somebody is traveling for work and then they get injured in that particular process, then the claim is on the company, because they were doing their work duty, even though they didn't commence the particular work. What the company would do is workman's compensation. So you've got the Compensation of Injuries and Diseases Act. Then the company would follow that particular procedure, and they will submit the necessary documents that are required, the injury reports and etc. for that particular individual, and the Compensation of Injuries and Disease Act in the form of UIF would then pay out a particular salary to this particular person for the rest of their life.
I have two scenarios, and time is, in my language, time is eaten by rats.
Yeah.
So these scenarios, all of them are very critical, right? And I also want us to talk about the building in George. The reason why I want us to talk about the building in George, I just want to understand from an HR perspective, with a situation such as this one, what do you guys do? You're dealing with a high-profile case where the eyes of the country are watching, meaning whatever you do, you must be very cautious. So what do you do in such a situation?
Yeah, I think that's a very sad situation that happened, the collapsing of that building on the individuals. And there's many elements that are involved in there. But I think, and I'm bringing it back to our core value, which is humanity at the core. I think before anything else, before you address any complexities or any legalities involved as a country or as a company where that happened, you have to display humanity at the core first. So you have to look at the humane angle of it. There's people that has lost their lives, and I think that should be the first focus before any other thing can cloud that particular thing. But not also withstanding, it's very, very important that companies uphold practices. So whether it's occupational health and safety, we have to look at that. You need to understand, was that observed? Whether it's hiring people in a legal way, hiring people who are legal in the country where the repercussions can be taken against those particular things. So I think for me, that incident is firstly, we have to display humanity. We have to understand it's an incident that involves people's lives and families, and that's how we need to deal with it before we confuse it with the complexities and the surrounding of legalities and etc.
Okay, so human capital are human first before anything else. Whew. Here's another one. I'm a CAE.
Okay.
And I earn about 600,000 a year. Okay. The governance structure in my organization is non-existent, as only senior managers are members of the audit committee.
Okay.
I'm saying this because there's a requirement.
Okay.
I have 14 years internal audit experience, of which 10 I spent in this company climbing up the ladder.
Okay.
I also have a CIA, meaning I'm accredited. I attended a conference last year, the Internal Auditors Conference, National Conference, last year, and I found out how much CAEs earn on a yearly basis. Not that there was a track session when they spoke about it, but through conversations with other people,
Absolutely.
I actually found out how much they're earning. I researched also, only to find out that I am highly underpaid with a very high title. In other words, I am automatically unemployable. How do I start a conversation of salary adjustment with my organization?
That's a good question. That's a very, very interesting question. So when I mean market positioning, when you do your benchmark, you've got it across a certain spectrum. So you've got the 25th percentile, you've got the 50th percentile, you've got the 75th percentile, you've got the 90th percentile. So if your company decides to position itself at the 50th percentile, that is their market position. That means whoever that they employ, when they do their benchmark, they are going to put that salary at the 50th. They do not want to be the market leader. So if you're going to look at that situation, you're always going to get people doing the same thing in different industries, earning different salaries because the company's market position is different. So they might be an industry leader and they want to attract talent. And how do they attract? By offering a higher package and paying at the 90th percentile. And you might be in a company where their market positioning is the 25th percentile. The most important thing here to note is that you need to ensure that you're not being underpaid. You're not being paid less than the minimum wage. That is number one. Number two, you also need to ensure you look at financials. So those things do affect how a company pay you. So when you're going into this conversation, understand what is the company's market positioning. Understand what has been the financials over the past 7 years. And then go to the table and seek advice that this is what I think. Because if you do research, that's your own research. When you do research, you're pulling out limited information. These are surveys that people put. So your information is not also accurate. So it is true if somebody has a designation, in this case, CIA, and somebody who's been in the ranks in that company for 10 years, there is a legitimate case to make out for a pay. However, it is heavily dependent on your industry. Is it an MPO? Is it a company that is driven by profit? Number two, what is their market positioning from a benchmark point of view? Number three, what has been their profitability? And all those things influence pay at the end of the day.
Sure. Hey, it's a lot. There's a lot going on, guys. Because like you would assume or think that having a discussion for salary increase or salary adjustment is a very easy thing to do. You just do your research and you're like, oh, I deserve 50,000 rands more. Whereas I didn't, honestly, personally, I didn't even know that there were other factors that I should consider. Is it fair to say that after looking at the market positioning, looking at the financials, I can actually justify using that? In other words, is it advisable from a research perspective for those that are seeking salary adjustments, right, to look into those factors for them to justify the increase?
Absolutely.
Over and above the work, right? Was it fair to say that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How would they start? Like, how would one know which percentile the company is?
And that's where they need to engage with the human capital to understand that when they do their benchmark, how often do they do their benchmark? What are they benchmarking against? Because again, your benchmark is not only industry specific. You sometimes can do a benchmark across your industry if you're an NPO, or you can do a benchmark across the wider industry. And so the person needs to understand by going to the human capital and finding out how do they benchmark, how often do they benchmark, and what is their market positioning in terms of salaries. And that will also be displayed in the employee value proposition, because that will show you. And just to add on that, you sometimes will also get individuals who have different benefits. And again, that speaks to the company's employee value proposition. They are trying to attract people, and how do you attract? By offering the best of the best. And not everybody can do that. Not everybody can have that sort of proposition. So if you do have the research, as you rightfully said, speak to your HR departments, understand what it is and how do they conduct this, and then you are able to go with something substantive and present a case that is logical, and hopefully you get what you're looking for.
Would you be that right person to speak to?
Absolutely.
You knew that question was coming.
Absolutely.
Like, can a member call, like, can I please speak to Amir?
Absolutely.
I'm underpaid. I need his advice. Okay,
Yes.
That's interesting. I think this is valuable information, especially for people in our profession. It's not that easy to look for a salary adjustment in our profession, especially as an in-house internal auditor. Because some organizations, they really don't understand internal audit that much. They wouldn't know how much you get paid. They literally Google, Clinton pay 16,000. Oh, okay, we'll pay 16,000, of which that's actually not the case.
Absolutely.
Okay. No, these conversations needs to be had, to be honest. The last one is, my team is not performing. And I decided to discipline all of them. Now tell me, what does Labor Relations Act say? Because I am tired. I can't take it anymore.
Okay. I think that's a very tricky one. Very good question, but very tricky also. So in terms of case law, I'll speak to it in terms of case law. There's a lot of case law when it comes to that. That would be common cause, right?
Okay.
When you're dismissing a group of people because there's common cause. There's something that they all did that you assume that they all contributed towards.
Hectic.
So it is something that can happen. But I'll just share with you a case law between NUMSA and Marcel Pipe Systems. So what happened and this was in 2022, what happened there was a group of employees who went on a strike because they were not happy with the salary increment that was proposed to them. And the head of HR at that particular time needed to come out to address this. And when he did come out, he was then assaulted. So there were three groups. There was one group that assaulted him. There was another group that partially contributed to the assault that was happening. And there was a third group that were bystanders just holding their placards and watching what was going on. Upon this assault happening and the injuries being sustained by this head of HR, they then took a position to fire all of them. Exactly what you're speaking about, disciplining all of them based on common cause. And when they did that, the dispute was then referred to the labor court. And the labor court found that the individuals who were bystanders, it was substantively fair to dismiss them also because they could have stopped what was going on. They seen this and they could have stopped it. So they ruled in favor of the employer. However, when it went on appeal to the Constitutional Court found that the bystanders, there is nothing that, in terms of law, that allows the bystanders to intercede in what was happening. So you have to look at the case from an individual complicity point of view.
Interesting.
Were they complicit? So the Concord found that the bystander, even though they were there, they were not complicit in what was happening. So their dismissal was unfair. But the other group's dismissal was fair. So going back to that, you need to be very careful. It is something that you can do, but you need to ensure that there's individual complicity that is looked at. When you're disciplining a group of people, do not just apply a blanket approach. Find out what each one's role was in that particular conduct and then go ahead and do it. So
that's interesting. So now, say for example, they were going on that strike, and obviously you have picketing rules, right?
Yes.
And there's no video that can single out who violated the picketing rules and who didn't. Say for example, the picketing rule says you need to only stand by the gate, right? And you shouldn't shout or cause any harm or anything to disrupt the normal day-to-day operations of the business. If you do, because remember, the company you are fighting with needs to generate money to pay the money that you are actually striking for. If you do, then all of you get dismissed. So say, for example, there's no video whatsoever, right? And somehow the picketing rules were violated to an extreme extent. In that case, what do you do?
So I think the same thing would apply. So when you say violated to an extreme extent, it would have to be tested. So if the picketing was protected, if it's a protected strike that people are doing, and in that protected strike, there's misconduct that happens, there's somebody that's liable for it. So taking the approach where you say there's no video and there was extremes that happen, we discipline everybody, the courts will take the same approach. They would want to understand on a case-by-case person, what was your role, interview each and every one of them to try and understand. So you don't have the video evidence, but that doesn't stop the investigations from talking to each and every one of them individually before you take a harsh recourse action.
But then what would CCMA do? Would they apply the same mechanism?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So basically, there's no blanket approach to firing and hiring.
No blanket approach. You have to look at it from an individual complexity point of view.
Okay. In this case, would it be safe to say that the manager's probably going through a lot?
Absolutely. I agree with you.
The manager's going through a lot in their lives. And they're like, I'm sick and tired of this.
I agree.
I cannot have these people anymore. They must go. I so wish we could chat more and more and more. In fact, I so wish we could have another episode because I think it's very critical for CAEs and managers. Because remember, the people that are watching, some of them are going to managers' role. There are things that they don't know. I remember when I was taking up a manager's role, I had to go through a training course. I forgot what it was, but I had to go through a training course on how to be a manager. And I realized that I might be an exceptional leader, but when it comes to managing a staff, there are certain things you need to know.
Absolutely.
Your disciplinary code, how do you enforce them? And how do you approach, because you find difficult people, man. A person comes in late, they lie about where they were. On Facebook, they are not where they said they were. They bring in a doctor's note that was signed by their next door neighbor with a practice number, literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, there's a lot of things that go on that managers really go through, to be honest. And just for us to have the understanding on what protects the staff member and what protects the manager, and for them to realize that human capital is there for both and not for one, right? And I think that's the knowledge and understanding that's missing, it lost in translation to some degree. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Really, really, really thank you. I appreciate the level of engagement, and you've given me so much information that will help me in my own industry and my own organization. So what just parting words, what would you say to the people that are watching this video right now? Anything. You can tell them to listen to Beyonce, anything.
No. I would say that continue watching this channel. You are going to get informative information across the entire business, and hopefully we can do justice to all of y'all in these talks that we're having. And again, thank you so much. It was wonderful sitting next to you. Fantastic host. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm a fantastic host. So, but one last thing. I want to know, can our members call you, email you? In other words, we are opening a floodgates of 150 emails and probably phone calls and messages. Can they call you for human capital issues that they cannot discuss with their own organization?
They should stay tuned for the next episode that we have, and we will probably reveal it there.
Ooh, cliffhanger. This is a Netflix movie, guys. It's a trailer of the real thing. Okay. So, to be confirmed.
Yes, to be confirmed. Absolutely, to be confirmed.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
much.
much.
Thank you for the time you have taken to join us on this wonderful episode. The information that we received today, I'm pretty sure it opened a lot of people's eyes, even those that were not hoping to become managers one day because they didn't like the nitty-gritties of the complexities of dealing with people, disciplinary. It's a lot. You can get a lot. And even for people that think that being a CAE, you literally walk around with a CAE written on your forehead and that's it. They don't understand the little team dynamics and things that you have to deal with. And I think this opened the minds of a lot of people. So I'd like to thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Episode 2 loading, right?
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, viewers, for watching. Such a wonderful episode with Amir. And I think all of us have learned so much on what human capital actually stands for in organizations. And I think it's critical for us to know exactly what it does and not assume what it does. Knowledge is power, 100%, because without knowledge, you will be arrogant for not knowing something. So with that being said, thank you for watching. Please be on the lookout for different events that are happening in the IIA. There are multiple events that are happening within your region that you are part of. So make sure that you do participate, especially in those particular regions, because then that's how you will find out exactly what IIA is doing and be part of this profession. You yourself must also contribute to this profession. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Feedback is the breakfast of champion. We want to hear from you. What can we change? What can we do in order to suit your taste bud as an internal auditor or just a regular viewer? Thank you very much for watching. I'm Masego Malapile and I'm signing out.